My name's Chris.
And I'm Christy.
This is the Washing Up Podcast. It's the Great Australian Bake Off coming back.
It's exciting times, and I'm a little fangirly and nervous, and I've been holding it in, trying to not look like a dweeb, but you know.
It's been something we've been building up to for a very long time. Ladies and gentlemen.
It's the heart of the shed.
It's our Mel and our Claire. Ladies and gentlemen, Mel Buttle, Claire Hooper.
Welcome to the podcast.
Hello.
Hello. I haven't seen you for ages, Mel. You know what? If you say the word dweeb, then you are a dweeb. It doesn't. There's no appearing to be a dweeb. You've said it. I've just done it myself. I've just outed myself as one because I used it.
Whereas Mel's just nodding, going.
Yeah, no, she's much smarter.
I'm the cool one of the group.
On trend.
She's sitting there in shades with a cigarette hanging out of her mouth, you know, a leather jacket.
On trend. It is an absolute delight to finally get you both on the podcast. Thank you so much for doing this. It's been an absolute pleasure.
My pleasure.
Well, I have been wanting to talk about Bake Off to people who actually care about it for a long time. So this is quite thrilling to not have to start at the beginning and explain what it is and how it works. So this is quite the treat.
There goes the first four questions of what do you do? What are the bakes coming off? So I'll just get rid of that. Line goes through that one.
I'm just like, you know, if you didn't know what it was, maybe you think it's like Face Off, but involving cakes. And there's John Travolta and Nick Cage and just bake swapping and craziness. And okay, I'm just going to breathe.
You say you want to take my bake off. No. So let's get into it, shall we? So the first thing is, for those who aren't aware, and if you're listening to this, you're aware because like this is very niche. Mm-hmm. It's back. It's been a while. It's been a long while. I feel like it's something that was possibly needed over COVID.
It's just not possible.
Not possible, unfortunately. So how are we feeling? How are we feeling when you sort of got the green light to go, yeah, we're back?
I was I didn't quite believe it. What about you, Mel? I mean, you know, like early whisperings, I was like, yeah, right.
It's always left until very late that we are actually confirmed that we are getting on a plane going to Sydney and making a TV show.
The day before.
Yeah. So I was a bit like Claire. I was like, well, let's just see if someone books me a ticket, Brisbane to Sydney, then I'll turn up. How about that? So, because it was a long break. Was it, you guys would know better than us, was it 2 years off?
Yeah, it was 2 to
2.5 years.
2.5 years on, you know, from filming.
From filming, yeah.
2 years from showing.
Look, obviously thrilled to have it back. I need work. I need something to do.
Can't be in the jungle forever.
Can't be in the jungle. I was in the jungle for 47 minutes. Yeah. But no, it's my genuinely like, and I don't want to be too early with the gushing, but it's my favourite job that I get to do. And I don't know if it's yours, Claire, but I reckon it might be as well.
Sorry, something went wrong with my microphone. Did you get my answer?
Sorry.
Yeah. No, I'm joking. Of course it's I'm gaslighting you. Yeah, absolutely it is. It's like I don't know if Mel, were you watching it before? I mean, like we're talking years ago now, but I was watching the British show. So it was so I was already coming into something that I was a massive fan of. And then on top of that, I reckon the best moment was when I heard that they'd cast you, Mel Buttle. You know, like early days, I was just like, they're going to get it right.
I remember very early days back when I auditioned for it. I too, like Claire, was a fan of the British one, but in a very mild sense. I wasn't regularly watching it. When it was on, I would be mesmerised by the screen like a cat at a goldfish bowl and just, you know, I was like, oh, we're not changing the channel. Someone's putting icing sugar on something.
You try swatting the TV as, you know, the...
Knock the bake off the cabinet. Knock the bake off the cabinet.
But I was a fan of it, and I even wore a suit jacket to the audition, which is not something that I wear.
I'm going to be the Sue, all right?
This leads me into something I did want to ask about just quickly, which was, how do you go about creating something that's your own when you've got an existing model,
Mm.
especially with, you know, again, Mel and Sue in the UK and how iconic that had become by the time it got around to Australian. How do you go about creating your own thing?
Claire?
Yeah. I don't know. I don't think I mean the difficulty of having a prototype version of it that you're trying not to look like you're copying, that was outweighed by the positive of being like, oh my goodness, a show that's hosted by two women, that's so rare. I've finally got a good chance at this job. You know, because usually things are hosted by a man, if you're lucky, a woman. Do you know what I mean? Like, but two women. I was like, so I will take the pressure of Mel and Sue's incredible performance on the British one. I'll take that pressure for just the chances of having twice as much likelihood of getting the role. Anyway, okay, but to your actual question, I don't know. Yeah, it was funny. I mean, the show already had a tone and we were happy to match the tone, but I just don't think, I mean, I don't know about me. I think I can be a bit of a sponge, but Mel has a distinctive voice and I don't reckon she was ever gonna copy. Yeah, I don't think you were ever going to go in trying to be. I mean, having said that, you did just admit to a suit jacket in the audition.
I did.
Look, you've got a
And glasses.
I watch a lot of Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders making the team, and you know, there's a lot of girls who wear the dark blue and white just to plant that image in the judge's head to go,
Let
hey,
them see you already there. Yeah, if you're
Exactly.
auditioning for a cop, wear a chambray shirt.
Yes.
Yes. Because the bakes were so, I didn't remember any of the bakes specifically that the British one did. I just remember the tone of the show washing over me, and I, when you're in there in the moment going, okay, they're baking this thing we've never heard of, Claire, what are we going to say about a Gâteau St Honoré? Yeah, and we did, like, at no point were we like, well, let's see what they did on the British one. We would just try and create our own new funny thing, but with the tone. Obviously we're at the tone of the show, we know the music of the show and the feel, but I am still me on Bake Off. I'm obviously some elements are toned right down. Yeah, but we didn't ever, I don't think it's not really something we worried about as people accusing us of copying
no.
Mel and Sue.
No, I think as a viewer, you know, we were so, I think there's like a certain pride that you have, like seeing two like Aussie comedy queens. Like that's how I view you guys. Come in, step in, and you know, and when you're watching, you're just like, this is perfect. Like the energy and the like the connection between you guys and Maggie and Matt, and then how you connect to the Bakers is amazing. I mean, I can remember, Claire, when you took over from Julie McCrossan on Good News Week.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
They were some huge shoes to fill. And, you know, that's a very beloved show. And, you know, Julie is, I think, you know, a legend of Australia. But you were bloody phenomenal.
She didn't want to do it. Just to I don't know if I ever said that out loud. No, she's very specifically declined. She'd be like, "No, I don't think I'll come back and do it." Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it was really important not to try and copy what had been, because she's a lawyer and I don't have those words. I don't have the vocab to pretend I'm a lawyer. Yeah, you know what? Yeah, I really like that. I wonder if another two hosts would have had just as much fun and just as much success, because I feel like the show's awfully comfortable. You know, like I feel like a lot of people could have successfully put those shoes on, and I'd like to believe that it's us and only us, and it could only have been us. But I feel like it is possible that a lot of people would have been good, because it's so warm in there.
I mean, I think one of the things that though we've seen across different versions is that hosting choice is really important, and obviously Mel and Sue with the, you know, what we were sort of
original
Bake Off classic.
Yeah.
Although it is funny that you do point out, you know, two women hosting a TV show, given where the British one has gone now.
Yeah.
Which it's suddenly morphed completely.
But there's at least queer representation.
We'll get off building.
There's some male queer.
But in terms of the hosting, like one of the things we've seen is that where shows have been allowed to sort of build their own brand and do their own thing a bit more, it's a bit more successful. So Australian and Canadian, we've done a hell of a lot of coverage on, obviously. And both of those shows, we've said that one thing that people who have watched British and then watch Australian in particular have said is that Australian has sort of forged its own path, very separate now to what British is, and almost to the point where it feels a little bit more enjoyable. And British, and this is an interesting thing with British, it hasn't felt as enjoyable in recent series. A lot of that's moved a little bit, whereas with Australian, the joy's never moved. It's literally never moved.
What do you? I want to pin that down. What do you reckon is not as enjoyable about it? Do you think it is simply that now you have something that reflects your voice and your culture a little bit more? It resonates better for you, or do you actually think that they're having slightly less fun? Do you think they've leaned too much into the competition element in the UK one?
Yes,
absolutely. Because we watch the Canadian and love it because there is still that heart. You know, there's still heart in the British. I don't want to take that away, but you know, you can see that there's genuine camaraderie between everyone in the pavilion, as we call it. They still call it a tent, so it's a pavilion.
The difference,
it just needs flags.
Yes. Again, every version has their own.
You put a clown out the front, and it's a full-on circus.
Yeah, we've got a tent in the UK, a shed in Australia, and a pavilion in Canada.
Yeah.
But in terms of what we were saying there about the versions, I think both things are true. I think it's the local voice is part of that.
Mm-hmm.
But the other thing is too, in Australia, it's a cake plate and it's this camaraderie and enjoyment, and they love again, and you know, we spoke to obviously Nicole in previous series where she talked about love the bakers, love the bakes, and that's sort of a mantra. Canadian, it's about a cake plate and this camaraderie. In the UK now, especially after Channel 4, a little bit more into, can I make a permanent career out of this in food?
Well, they're a cultural icon now.
And also Paul Hollywood is steering
their
into the skid
reference.
really hard. Like Paul Hollywood is steering into that, I need to be a slightly mean baker really firmly. And so that blend is a bit different from what it was. You know, it's and no Mary Berry, I think, also hurts that too a little bit.
Yeah.
I think that's Prue, but Mary's.
I love Prue. How would it be if you had Mary Berry and Prue? Sorry, Paul.
No,
how would that be?
Oh yeah, that would be rocking.
I love when they let Prue be Prue, but
that said, like I'd love to see a Maggie Beer and Mary Berry just queendom of, well, even like empressdom of Bake Off, like World Bake Off, with these like.
Funny you should mention that. One of a very long list of Bake Off spin-off pitches that Mel and I came up with.
Oh, yes, so many.
Yep. So many.
Well, we've pitched
Bake
the
Off
Commonwealth
All-Stars,
Games.
Bake Off Kids. Yep.
We've pitched the Commonwealth Games
Bake Off.
a number of times, and never goes anywhere.
I might just write that down.
I'll send you the format.
Like we've got a few.
No, I don't. Yeah. It's an idea that I just invented then, so that I don't need the format. It's
I'll send you the 3-day format idea, so you can come up with that one too. It's all good.
Okay. Oh, thank you.
And then there's a lot of people who've already submitted their ideal teams for different countries, so we can send that to you as well. So you know.
So you'll come up with a great,
so helpful.
Yeah, you'll come up with an amazing.
Oh yeah. Well, all right. Actually, off the top of your head, who are on the top of the Aussie list? Who do people really want to represent Australia?
Well, this will be interesting because we did a couple of seasons ago. We did a Commonwealth Games team, but that was too serious.
Yeah.
But that was too
okay. You need a new one. Get back to us when you have a new list.
So we've got to add it.
We'll wait till after this season and then see, you know, fresh blood. Because, you know, people of, I don't know, there's some people who, you know, just, they don't even age out of baking, do you? You kind of age into baking. Like the older you get, the more baking gravitas.
You don't age out of baking ever.
It's just, it's.
Especially not if you're cremated.
No, then you definitely age in.
That's something you can.
But make no mistake, Claire and I are at the producers all day long pitching Bake Off spin-off ideas. So audience, rest assured that is all we do all day long is make lists of who'd be on what show. We're hosting, of course. So look, not one of them is yet to be listened to, but you know, we live in hope.
We're here for it.
I notice at no point is there a one where we'll get some different hosts in to change the vibe. So no, we're hosting all of them.
I don't need different hosts. No, hosts are good. All good.
At least some crossovers, you know, like what's some, like, you know, Pat to the Bake Off
No,
Just have Rebecca Gibney pop in.
no, they've done that. It was called
I
Master Chef
see.
Class, and it wasn't great. Anyway, it wasn't good. Moving on.
Moving on. Some people might need career options later. You know, we don't want to just.
But I mean, part of the allure of that too, obviously, is the ability, and this is something that I think is specifically a host's ability, is the ability to snaffle food. And it's a key thing that I mean, first of all, I assume it's just in the brief when you get the job is that you need to be able to snaffle food off benches. Now, I imagine that with COVID, that might have been a little bit more tricky this year.
Oh, it certainly is fun to get the halfway through the season reminder about COVID. And that we might have got a bit lax and forgotten some of the rules that were put in place for everyone's protection.
Exactly.
Yeah. It was certainly a lot stricter this year. And then on bread week, I decided, look, I think some of these breads are worth getting COVID for. And then I just ripped right on in. Yes, no, and then we got the reminder, hey, just letting you all know that only Maggie can taste the food, and I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah, that was quite disheartening, because normally Claire and I are there with sausage rolls in Tupperware containers. But no, they were very safe. This year we were in a bubble, we're in a very safe COVID bubble. But yeah, it is very hard for me to stand there next to a beautiful fresh bread that's come out of the oven and just be like, I don't even want it. I actually don't even care about it.
I don't like gluten. I'm not a fan of gluten. It's overrated.
I'm just imagining as well, like bakers, as when they first start, you know, they've seen it on the telly. They've heard all the, you know, the hosts like to eat food. Are they surprised by just how much you're willing to consume, or is it?
Well,
it does get to
okay.
Yeah, go on.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, Claire and I have changed our strategy over the years. So my strategy used to be, I'm going to eat everything that every baker makes all the time.
It's bold. It's very bold.
Then I had to wind that back over the seasons, and now I've got to the point, I think this year, which I tried to stick to, Claire, you can speak on the fact if I did, was I am only going to eat on my favourite weeks. So my favourite weeks are bread, like savoury, patisserie.
Yeah, obviously patisserie.
Patisserie, and that was meant to be it.
Yeah.
Did I stick to my new rules, Claire Hooper? Speak freely.
Yeah, you know what? You're pretty close to. I think you were at about 90% of that rule. Does that make
Thank
sense?
you.
Yeah, I saw great restraint, aided by the producer's instructions. Re COVID definitely helped. And I reckon this was the first season where, because they pick all your costumes at the start of the season and then expect you to fit them at the end. And I reckon this was the first season where there was absolutely no difficulty getting into my week 10 finale outfit. Did you find that? But I was like, this isn't even a suck my tummy in kind of situation. It just went on really easily. And I was like, oh, well, that's what COVID has done for us.
Yes.
Also, my husband not being able to be in Sydney with me for filming, that also kept me quite lean, because as you know, I only eat found food. I cannot feed myself.
The stuff you used to eat. Yes, this season was very different for Claire because she didn't have her main support person, her husband, and Claire's like, for dinner. You told a story once about what you ate for dinner, and Maggie had to walk away from the situation because it was so disgusting. You were like, and I had rice, but I didn't have onion. So instead of onion, I put in barbecue sauce, but I didn't have any eggs, so I put in some pickles. And then Maggie's like gone. Like,
it sounds like, well, Mel, you went into, you know, the actual I'm a celebrity, get me out of here. Claire, you still had your own experience of that, but you lasted longer.
She did. She lasted the full 10 episodes.
I've just got this image now of
Yeah.
like, I've just got my image now of like week 2 or week 3. Matt Moran turns up one day, just goes to the car and goes, 1 minute. I've got some stuff in the back of the car. I can't see you like this.
He did actually bring us food at one point, didn't he?
He did.
He brought a giant
brought
box of
us-
food for us. He's a
Oh,
very
yes, he
nice
did.
man. And do you remember on Buzz, do you remember the last episode where your beautiful partner had flown down to join us and she fancied some Maccas on the way home, and we accidentally told
Yes.
Matt and Maggie that we were going to get her Maccas on the way home.
Oh,
And
no.
Matt and Maggie, like, they absolutely didn't believe it. They thought it was one of our funny jokes. You know,
Oh,
what
no.
did Matt went?
Yeah.
He went, "You're not serious," and he
You're not.
genuinely thought we were joking.
Yeah, guys, you're not going to. I was like, it's 11:30. We've been in this outfit since 7 a.m. I'm starving. Lunch was at like 2 p.m. Yes, I'm getting, I don't know what, I probably got my standard Big Mac meal, but yeah, they thought we were doing a really funny bit and we were just going to go home and, just cook up a few, easy courses at midnight. Just, I don't know, lamb cutlets with some
leftover
kale
venison in
sauteed.
the fridge.
Yeah, the leftover venison. There's a sous vide just there with the app, and you like hit the button on the app for the sous vide 2 hours early, and you're like, just go home.
I was like, no, we're going through a drive-through. Then we're going to be little piggies and eat nuggets and a burger and chippies and a dessert if I want.
Everyone knows that between the hours of 11 a.m. and 4 a.m., there is no calories in McDonald's. It is purely just a ghost
Oh.
food. Yeah, yeah.
It-
Also, at
Also-
any hour in an airport.
Yes.
Yes.
That's true.
Well, time is relevant in an airport.
Mhm.
The airlines, but they will tell you that.
Please don't die of COVID on
Oh
COVID.
God.
He doesn't have COVID.
I need one of those signs that says not COVID, just asthma. Unfortunately, with the weather at the moment.
Me?
Yeah, you.
Oh, okay. So the dogs outside the tent, Mel, how do you
Yes.
restrain yourself? Like, I'm just imagining.
Oh, I don't
Okay.
restrain myself at all. No, I go, there's a dog, and run outside no matter what's happening. Yeah. And when they're like, hey, Mel, just wanted to know if you'd be able to come back inside too. I'm like, oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, sorry.
Did you see the puppy?
I had a mind snap there where I saw a beagle and had to touch it immediately. Our director, Kate Douglas Walker, is a big dog fan, and of course she can hear everything we say all day long into our mics. And it got to the point where she would say in our ears things like, really nice shaggy black dog coming up the right hand side of the shed. Like, run to the window, have a look.
There's
yeah.
totally going to be 1 week where you're doing that, and Claire does the the person staying, congratulations, Starbaker is blah, and then they cut to you and you've got this dog and you're like, oh, I've got the sad job, unfortunately, and the dog's licking your face. And it's just,
My emotional support terrier and I have the sad news of announcing. Now, Claire, we got some good dogs in the shed.
I love the dogs too, guys. Big dog
Yeah.
fan. Just took my dog on holiday, but Dusty came with us for 2.5 weeks road trip.
Oh, nice.
Really limits your Airbnb options, but still a lot of fun.
Certainly does. So you took your children and your dog
Yeah.
and your husband and yourself. Okay.
Yeah.
In your
Mhm.
Prius?
Yeah.
Yep.
In the old Prius. And
Yep.
well, this does not answer your dog question, guys, but since I haven't seen Mel in a while, yes. And so that we could put, because the Prius is a hatchback, so the dog bed, the orthopedic dog bed, he's 18 years old, guys, so he needs an orthopedic dog bed. That fits in the back hatch of the Prius, perfect, but that meant nowhere for the luggage. So we put roof racks on. That's right, I installed roof racks myself, no big deal, whatever, on a Prius, the best. And then borrowed Cal Wilson's car pod. Yes, we broke it, and now I have to pay her like $500 for a broken car pod. Shh. It wasn't me. It was my husband. And anyway, so we did this whole like car pod situation and put the luggage up top because we couldn't use the back hatch. And then we drove for 2 hours and Dusty jumped over the back seat and sat on my daughter and refused to move for the rest of the 2.5 weeks. So we completely wasted getting roof racks in a car pod, which we broke. I'm so sorry, Cal Wilson. Anyway, yeah, but it was great. It's nice. And,
Sounds
you know,
amazing.
it was a really, it's one of those things when you start traveling with a family, you get really good at framing an absolutely horrific time as a little
Wonderful
slice of
family
heaven.
moment. Treasured memories.
I got pulled over by the cops. We turned up to an Airbnb at 6:30 p.m. with 2 small children and a dog, and the keys weren't in the lockbox. That one was great. What else? Oh yeah, Penny vomited. Kartik vomited all over the dog, and we were in the middle of nowhere with like no water left. Like, how do you clean vomit off a dog? Anyway, it was.
Well, I mean, if anyone knows the
Did you
answer,
clean
if anyone knows the answer to that question, how do you do it?
Yeah. Okay. So what do? You get.
Well, I want to know what you
No.
did.
Yeah,
Yeah.
what are the life tips with Claire?
You get everybody out of the car, even though it is actually 37 and you're on the side of the road in the middle of nowhere. It was so hot and revolting. And you get clothes out of the dirty washing bag and you scrape it. You scrape those clothes along the dog.
Yep.
And you clean up the child with a few hand wipes that you have left over, and then you use tiny trickles of water dripped into the upholstery of the car to like wipe down the car. And then you basically just drive for a really long time with the car smelling of vomit, and then you do a big old clean when you get to where you're going. It was a bad time. Are you going to edit this out because it's too miserable?
No, that feels like large chunks of my 20s. But
The fondest memories I have of my childhood road trips is getting stuck behind the cowl truck,
Yeah.
flying back. That was sorry. That's my one swear for the
there's
pod.
your swear.
And also, what was the other one? No, it's gone. But the poo.
No, my
Poo
one,
chunks.
my two was one scratching a chicken pox off my head accidentally at the Edamoga pub. And now I've got a chicken pox scar in the middle of my forehead because we just got over chicken pox, but I still had the last of the marks. And I wiped my brow, and I hadn't scratched, and I wiped my brow and took a chicken pox off, and I've got a mark to this day where I took it off.
Your beautiful money-making face.
And my father getting busted by a cop speeding in Castlemaine in Victoria. As he came down the hill, he got to the speed sign. He was rolling, and as he got there, the car just rolled out of the ditch, took his photo, and rolled back in. To this day, he's never forgiven Victoria. To this day, he holds it against the entire state.
I think that's where the whole rivalry came from. It's just Chris's dad, just stoking the flames, fueling the fires
Can't stand it.
of rage. And
Now, to go with an absolute non sequitur from all of that,
okay,
because I think there's a burning question we do need to ask, which is what is it like working inside the shed with a national treasure and an underrated comedy assassin? And you can ascribe those titles to whichever one of the two judges you want. Because I mean, look, just to give you a bit
Interesting.
I think they're both Maggie. Are they both Maggie?
Well, given that
They're both Maggie.
given that the funniest thing ever in the history of Bake Off is Maggie's all popped up and happy to see you on Clafouti.
Yes.
remember that with the little apples.
And Matt just going, yes, Maggie, they certainly look cooked.
I've still got that tea towel. Have you still got the happy to see you tea towel?
Yes, I do. I have all of our crew gift merch because I'm moving house. So I'm like, no, that's got to stay. Undies with my face and Claire's face on them. Put those. No, that's a memory. Put those back down. A lighter.
It's a memory and a
A
Saturday.
pen with a croissant.
So obviously Matt and Maggie, I mean, discuss is the simple way.
Wow. So I will begin as an offhanded funny joke at the audition that I did. The lady at Foxtel, Sally was her name at the time, she shuffled up to me and said, is there anyone who's not here today who you think you might like to work with on this show? And as a really funny gag to, impress Sally, I went, I don't know, can we get Maggie Beer?
Another one of your Bake Off IDs there, Mel.
Just so funny. So my biggest, craziest dream, what a silly thing to say, actually is very real. And she's an angel. And she is very funny. But she's also like a really smart, sensible businesswoman. And you realize none of her empire is an accident.
No.
She's amazing. Claire, your thoughts on Magua?
Oh my gosh, I just love her so much. She texted me last night
Oh.
because she saw me on Spicks and Specs.
Yes.
Yeah, so we had a nice chat
Yep.
because I went into the farm shop last week because I was road tripping. So I went and saw her peacocks. Her peacocks have had chicks. It's adorable. Anyway,
It's
she
just off
is,
to the side of Stately Beer Manor.
Yes.
We
have a
she
Yes.
she is, yeah, like it is such a strange, lovely privilege to be able to hang out with her like a mate, but it's really just work forcing us together. And I know that I'm not worthy. But she treats us like we are worthy of her company, which is one of the sweetest things she's ever done.
Yes.
Aw.
There's nowhere
And
to
oh,
hide.
and when you make her laugh, when you make her laugh,
Oh.
Mel,
Oh my God.
it's
It's the best. Oh,
it's all we're really
It's a
playing
big-
for.
well,
that's it. Yeah.
well, the only thing I will say just before we get to Matt, obviously,
Mhm.
is that at the last grand final, while we were there, and Maggie was off between filming, going and seeing people and saying hello to everybody.
Mhm,
And it was so funny. And I know it's happened before, but so funny. She's off there, she's talking, she's being so lovely because she's Maggie. And production's over going, oh, Maggie, we're trying to film
Mm.
the last part of the judging. She's like, in a minute. And just sort of just being so lovely and warm
Generous.
and generous with
Yeah.
everybody. And it was just so wonderful to see. And at the same time going, yes, I'm coming to judge, don't panic. I'm just saying hello to 15 million people who are all my friends.
Everyone knows Maggie. Everyone. And I think with Bake Off, there's not really anywhere to hide because you're there all day. The interactions aren't scripted. So you are seeing Matt and Maggie's response to people. So if Maggie or Matt was an absolute asshole who didn't care, that would come across in
No.
the show. So what you are seeing is exactly what happens. It's that they care about the bakers like we all do. We all get attached and and Maggie gets particularly a bit more than Matt. She sort of wants, she has some little hens in the shed that she wants to take under her wing, and it's very nice how invested she is. When we used to all have makeup together pre-COVID, so previous seasons, Claire and I and Maggie would have the best time of the morning, just coming in and going, right, who do you think's going home? Who do you think's leaving? Yeah, but remember they didn't know how to make caramel. And we just, it's like a amazing little gossip session in makeup to catch up on what we think about what's happened. And to have Maggie be care is like, but I'm like, of course she cares. It's her show. Of course she's interested, but it's so refreshing to just have fun in makeup instead of sit there and talk about how many properties you own, for example.
So different. But it's but the thing is with
If we're playing Monopoly, I could totally get in on that conversation.
that's how you do it.
Yeah.
But with like again, and with like Matt, for example, I know a lot of people who, when they started watching Bake Off, said to me very early on, they went, "Look, Maggie, I get, but Matt and baking doesn't seem automatically like the natural fit." But Matt is so
Oh no, he knows his stuff.
Exactly.
That's where he started. And whenever we go round to his place for lunch, which I might just pretend is heaps more than it really is, but whenever we do, he'll bake something
Yeah.
and it will be astonishingly good. What was it? It was a because it
This
was a
year was
date the
a-
first year. What was it?
This was just a very nice, I think, lemon curd tart.
Yeah, I
memory,
think
so-
so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just
really,
simple
and-
but perfect. The pastry was just perfect, like as
Mm-hmm.
of course it was.
of course.
Does he send you home with like a show bag of lamb cuts? 'Cause-
I wish.
Oh mate, but
Um,
how about the truffle this year? But I mean, is that indiscreet to talk about? Because you basically dared him to
Yes.
cook you something, but that like truffle potatoes, and then he couldn't find it anywhere in Sydney. But he was so determined
Yeah.
to deliver you this like excruciatingly expensive ingredient for your potatoes.
I think he
He's
he said this is the last and only white truffle that's left in Sydney, and all of it's in your potato mill. I was like, thank you, it's yummy. Like he came up to me once at the end of makeup and said, what do you want to eat on Sunday? And I was like, just whatever's yummy, no weird stuff. I was like, no octopus, no weird,
I don't want
And he's-
tentacles.
I don't want, just normal. and he listed off all this food and was like genuinely checking if he thinks it's a good idea to serve. And I'm like, yeah, I reckon some Wagyu rump would be okay. I think people would enjoy that with the
Daring him.
caprese salad.
If you must.
Like, I'm like, whatever you want, because
He knows not to ask me.
You're like, I'd like a lobstucken. Like it's like a lobster stuffed in a
Oh,
chicken.
that's a great idea, except for the crunchy bits.
Yeah.
No, he is so kind and generous and loyal, but he almost does friendship competitively, doesn't he? He's just like, oh, I'm going to be your friend and I'm going to do it hard. He's amazing.
he's great.
Chip, and you're going to like it.
You're going to enjoy all of it. Every part of my friendship is going to be wonderful.
But he really, I mean, like it was true. He did, he noticed, he was like, the lunches aren't great. They have been in previous years. The COVID lunches, they're in little boxes. They're pretty wilted by the time we get to them. And he's like, I'll just bring some stuff in. Like he is so generous to the people around him. It's really,
Well, it's like I have a lot of cookbooks, but I don't use a lot of cookbooks. But the only one I do use religiously is Matt's.
oh,
Because it's absolutely fantastic. Brilliant buffalo mozzarella lasagna recipe.
Much
Amazing.
like you, Claire.
Oh.
I too would be kind of lost in the wild if it wasn't for my my cook and podcast host partner. So yeah, I do appreciate Matt's cookbook as well from the receiving end.
It's one of the only things. So in terms of, we should probably vaguely mention like the fact that there's a series of Bake Off coming at some point. So there's a series of Bake Off coming. Anyway, moving on. No,
you definitely you've mentioned it a few times. Don't worry about that, mate.
Beautiful. Well, before we get into
Just make it the title of this podcast.
yeah, well, that's it. I'll call it that.
Bake Off is coming.
Bake Off is coming. That's the whole title. That's it.
Mhm.
There's no more to it.
Yeah.
But before we get to this series, anything from past series that really stand out? Bakers, bakes, moments,
Pie drops, swears.
Yeah, people dropping pies and swearing all about that, Fiona. Certain people trying to make crepe cakes and only using one pan, Robert. I have to drop that in every episode. It's kind of a dare now.
16-year-old wunderkins.
Well, as mum and dad, we don't have favorites, obviously. Every baker is a special angel. One of my favorite moments in the shed, which I'm sure you're across, was the last season we did. I believe it may have even been Biscuit Week. I'm not sure. Dennis, you remember this bit where he said something like, "This is my erection. It may not be as good
this
as
is
my
not the
previous
first
ones."
erection I've had some difficulty with. Something
Yes.
like
Yeah.
that, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. That moment was like no one could get it back together. Like Maggie needed a cup of tea, stop filming, get all your sillies out.
Bex and a lie down.
Yeah.
He didn't even need to be that funny. I was already absolutely on board with Dennis. I loved him so much. He felt like he was family immediately. Gorgeous man.
He's a wonderful-
Yes, but that was probably the funniest moment in Bake Off, wasn't it?
That was
knowing
the
we-
funniest moment.
There was some
There
pretty,
was-
there's some great, I mean, we can't discuss probably my favourite moment in this season. Cannot be discussed, but I can't wait till we can.
Oh, like the sizzle forward.
Oh,
sizzle.
Favorite moment.
Forward.
In terms of entendre, I'm just gonna.
Okay, yeah.
There's sizzle coming, people. This is good. I like forward sizzle.
Claire's making hand gestures. We won't even mention those. We don't want to spoil this
Mhm.
awesome.
Like I like to follow the bakers on Instagram and see if they kind of stick with it, if they double down after Bake Off and go harder into it, like Antonia has done, Robert has done. That always interests me. I'm like, oh, it's sort of that Australia's Got Talent, Australian Idol thing. It's a bit like Guy Sebastian, Shannon Knoll. Is the winner going to go hard and make this a career, or is it maybe someone who was a bit further down the chain and they find the passion and the skills a bit later on? So I like to keep an eye on the bakers on social media. This season, maybe because of COVID, maybe because our partners weren't there, Claire and I, I don't know if it will make the cut, but Claire and I were, I'll say, we were far more emotional this season.
It won't make the cut.
It won't make the cut, will it? No.
It won't.
No, well, Claire and I were very tough, and we don't even care. So,
Butts cried, and it will not make the cut. It's too off-brand. They're cutting it out. I cried first. I mean, obviously, I couldn't get through a sentence. I couldn't even get through the sentence.
Yeah.
But it will absolutely. It's an But it wasn't charming. It was an absolute mess. Made a mess of it. But yeah, we were very emotionally fragile because we were away from our families, and we also had, certainly for me, I'd come from deep Melbourne lockdown into filming, and it was a beautiful bubble full of love, but it was, I was definitely twitchy, but that is the first and last time I will ever see you actually cry at work, and it was amazing. It's a really special, beautiful thing that won't make the cut.
And the hard part about it, too, is that you both sort of act as the emotional sort of register of the show at times. And, when things get too heavy, lightening it up, or the hand on the shoulder when needed. And it's that when to go in with each of those. So that obviously can be a bit of a drain for both of you at the best of times without a lockdown and other circumstances going on. So, that's sort of one of the things that I think a lot of people don't really look at when they look at hosting Bake Off, because it's wonderful, it's fun, but there's a lot of emotion in there too, and there's a lot of regulating, like someone's life is melting as their cake collapses in front of them.
And especially this season, because I wasn't the only person who'd come out of deep lockdown. There were a lot of people whose lives had been very different.
Yep.
Leading up to that, and so we were all a little bit what would be the word? I mean, just shell shocked to be out and in public.
Yes.
And I really like that about the show. The show knows that it is not about people don't turn on to watch people devastated and crying. Yep. And yet sometimes in the heat of the moment with the clock ticking, people feel really can get really frustrated with themselves and upset. And yes, I like that we're allowed to, and it wouldn't be the case on other shows, I like that we're allowed to diffuse that and try and support people through it, because again, people can watch other shows to watch an emotional meltdown. That's not what people are coming to Bake Off for. So if it's really nice that we're allowed to try and, walk in and support rather than.
The sensitivity with which you both move through that shed is a joy to watch. Seeing you either play around with the bakers when it's positive, and then if that little bit of lift needs to happen, you both exercise that with such skill and care. And it's so, like you said, they don't do that on other shows of treating a human's remote emotional response to a situation with the respect it deserves. Whenever someone has an issue on Bake Off, your heart breaks with them.
Whereas with other shows, it's a plot point.
I think if it cuts up the way I think it will, this season, I think Claire, more than others, is going to have a lot more emotion in it, but not in this drama, oh my God, they've burnt their cake away. People are talking more openly about things like anxiety, for example, this season. And I hope it does make the cut, because it felt like it was a bit more a part of the shed and the world we're in. Yeah. Which was, it was kind of refreshing to have bakers who are there and they're very human, and even they're putting on a brave face, but they're talking about their struggle in the shed, which was really nice to see. Not that we haven't had that previously, but this year it felt like, wow, we're all a bit broken, limping into the shed.
It's cutting across a far broader spectrum this year because of just what everyone's been through.
Yeah, it was, but the season still had moments where, like, Claire and I are on the floor, like, laughing as well. It's not doom and gloom, but
yeah, I definitely remember being on the floor laughing at something, but on the floor, and I can't remember what was funny now.
Was it after, like, I don't know, alcohol week? I just, like, Like, I'm sure that's sure.
That's every week. Losing a bake week is every week.
That's right.
I don't think there is an alcohol week.
Maybe they discovered the still.
We were a bit sillier this year.
Oh my gosh, weren't we? Like, and it was definitely, so there was this weird roller coaster that Mel and I would go on that was much more pronounced than previous years, which was we were so surprised to find us in a lovely, busy room full of other people, all of whom were very permissive with our silliness. People would be like, yes, that's fine. Be silly. That's your job. Continue to be silly. And we just got sillier and sillier. And then there would be this 3 p.m. shame crash where all the coffee wore off and we suddenly realized we'd been being silly since 7 a.m. Did you get that? Did you get like as in way sillier than ever before?
Forget Bake-Off's back. The title of the podcast is 3 p.m. Shame Crash.
It was, yeah, and then I would have to like go and sort of face into the corner just for a few seconds just to pull myself back together.
I think more than other seasons, we involved the crew in our silliness, maybe. I don't know.
What were we doing? We were laughing so much. It was that, it was that your mother joke, wasn't it? What's the difference between...
Yes.
Do you remember?
Oh my God, I forgot that. Yeah.
And people can hear us all the time. There are people whose job is to listen to our microphone the whole time. It doesn't matter that we're doing it quietly in the corner. Somebody has to listen to that.
Someone's listening. That's right. That was,
Is it a joke that can be shared, or is it just,
No.
Yeah, okay. No, do you know what? The punchline can't be. But also the punchline is constantly evolving, and that's the game. And it's basically pick any bake. What's the difference between a patisserie and your mother?
And then you evolve the podcast.
And then you just do heaps of punchlines.
I feel like this should become a new theatre sports game.
Was, I mean, Mel's, I don't know if you can imagine, but Mel's very good at this game. And
I am shocked and stunned.
But that's not the only setup. It is simply what's the difference between, and gosh, there were some good ones, but and none of them broadcastable.
Not a single one. There was that. We had our own song that would make no sense to anyone else, but I didn't have any rice, so I used the dead mouse. But I didn't have olive oil, so I used some peanut butter.
Well,
this is definitely lockdown humor.
The time I tried to.
Was that Claire's recipe?
That's when I tried to cook.
Yeah.
Matt heard that and went, "I need to feed her. I need to."
A lot of it is delirium. Like when you're standing there, what is it? The judging of the technical bake is when this stuff really earns its keep. It's now nighttime. Claire's in heels. We've been in our outfits, full makeup all day long. It's well past everyone's bedtime, and we've got to stand there quietly. And our job is to just
look respectful as Matt and Maggie make comments about the food that we're not allowed to eat.
Just stand in the corner and nod solemnly.
So essentially, you two are the drunk teenagers who've come home. No, Mum, no, Dad, we haven't been out.
We're fine.
That's quite a good.
We're all. I'm looking forward to the silliness though, because I mean, obviously there are two. I don't know if you're aware, but there are two gifts in particular from Bake Off that were sort of immortalised. The first one was in Free From Week, and it involves a certain
large trifle.
No, not the trifle's the second one. The first one is Free From Week, where unusually in some descriptions, Ms. Buttle is the straight person, while Claire is flitting and spinning with ribbons. And this is one of the two epic gifts. The other one is, of course, the trifle and the two large spoons for a certain overbearing trifle that Chris may or may not have made. So if it beats those,
that's right. The spoons. I remember the spoons.
There was a lot of dancing this season.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, there was
you.
You did some too. You're amazing.
I did some, but
did.
It's in the promo. If you look very closely, Maggie dances a bit, and that is from before we've officially started filming.
Ooh.
That was a muck around, like to lift the mood in the shed when we get down to the final, like maybe 6 or 4. Mm-hmm. Everyone knows what they're doing a bit more. Sound guys put some music through the shed while we're setting up, and it puts everyone on a bit of a high.
Mm-hmm.
And in the promo that they're running, that's Maggie Beard dancing through the shed when cameras weren't really officially meant to be rolling.
I mean, look,
But
I'm just happy with the fact that I live to be able to say the phrase, I have seen Maggie Bear on a carousel. And that's
yes.
my joyous from the last grand final, watching Maggie on a carousel. I don't think I've seen anyone with more joy. Just purely joy. It's the most joyous thing I think I've ever seen. So Maggie dancing through the shed.
So the dances just like random things, or are they the party favorites? Like, are you doing the Macarena?
Who doesn't
What
flip?
about- I'm trying to think of because I was so determined. I was determined to find a track that would crack every baker. You know, because they're really
correct.
serious and focused.
Yeah.
What? I think it was Janelle Monáe.
Ooh,
That's always a
What's the track? Anyway, I'm pretty sure it was a Janelle Monáe track which finally cracked all the remaining bakers.
that make me feel. Was it pink?
Yeah, it was Make Me Feel. It was Make Me Feel. Yep.
I'm just so
They're-
happy to nominate.
Yeah. So the Bakers, obviously, they're going into the semi-final and they are just, game face on. Claire and I, we're nearly finished work. It's the end of school. It's almost breakup day. So we want them all to have fun and dance and party with the crew we've spent weeks and weeks with every morning. And they just want to run through the recipe in their head on whatever they're baking. But let's find a middle point, I say.
They're going, my life is hinging on what these amazing people are about to say. And you're like, dance, monkey.
It's just fun. And you dance and your mic pack flies off and someone's got to put that back on and then you're behind time. And then when you're still there at 10 o'clock that night, you think maybe dancing for 40 minutes this morning may not have been worth it. But,
So Chris has changed to me, and you can edit this awkward pause out or keep it, which
I keep
I
your
think-
awkward
Oh,
pauses
no,
in.
keep
It's
it,
far
keep it.
funnier.
Keep it.
It's far funny when I keep your awkward pauses in.
Yeah, because it's the other thing. I just want to know, do you gear up for your puns, or are they just like naturally coming out? Like, where are you guys on puns? Are they,
No, that's not a natural thing for me.
you're not a pun lady?
So are you referring to like when we do a time call or when we,
Yeah,
when we
time-
say,
Time
Yeah.
calls, intros, or like whenever the
Yes.
puns appear. Yeah.
I feel like it's a fluid field of punning.
no, puns are not my strength, I don't think, or Claire's. We have to think very, very hard, and we do stand in the corner and they go, girls, we need you to do a 10-minute time call. They've only got 10 minutes left in this bake. Claire and I will spend a number of minutes going, what rhymes with cronut? Donut for your cronut. No.
No, that's too obvious.
Do
There's no
not-
such
do
thing as
not-
too obvious.
It's a pun,
So-
Chris. It's the most-
Yeah, so we have a very long meeting until Claire comes up with what we're going to say that's sensible and makes sense, and Claire says it, and then I go 10 minutes, bakers, and that's how we do
You're
that.
the numbers and you're the puns. There we go.
Yeah,
That
Claire's
is
got quite-
absolutely not true.
that
Claire's
is
like
mostly
slander.
true. Yeah. Then sometimes we have the gift of foresight, and Claire very cleverly will go, you know what I'm thinking? Why don't for the next one you ask if they've got a hat you can hold, and then that will link into, she's the brains of the operation. If Claire wasn't doing this, she'd be an ear, nose and throat surgeon. Yeah. Whereas it's still a mystery to me. Like, we've done 5 seasons and I will walk into the shed and have no idea if it's judging technical bake. Like, wouldn't have a
Cake
clue.
corner.
Cake corner. I don't
Oh,
know
we're
what that
eliminating
is.
someone now. All right.
Claire's got the wheel and is steering, and you're just like out the window going,
Yeah.
oh, look, tree.
Look, we've got hardcore
I-
fans that listen, so we can always do like a collective shout out and say, look, you've got suggestions, send them through. Just to give you some more of that inspiration, Mel, that you're talking of. Those
If
ideas that
anyone
come
out there, if we do go for another season, open call out, find our social media and just drop off whatever jokes and puns you've got, because we've
Just
done five
into
years.
Mel's DMs because I don't check mine.
I'm happy to put together a Word document, but this is,
Great.
you've got to think about, this is our 5th ever bread week we've done.
Mm.
Like, The
run it all.
barrel is very empty.
It's very hard to continue with bread puns.
We are not using the need again. Needing-
There's only so many times you can, refer to bread as pan.
or will they rise to the occasion? It is, yeah.
Oh, that gets put into promos a lot. There's nothing we can do about that.
We're
gonna-
going to on the promo.
That will be said in every single season.
Well, this has been an absolute delight and an absolute joy to finally get you on. Thank you so much for your time in the lead up to this. Is there anything apart from obviously Bake Off? Anything else you want to plug while we're here? Go for it.
There is. I mean, in theory, I'll be doing some stand-up shows around the country. But will I? I don't know. We count on nothing, but definitely keep your eye out because I'm going to be writing some jokes. So whether or not I get to do the jokes, we will see.
What do I have to plug? I'm doing shows in Brisbane, depending on when this podcast is released, on the 28th and 29th of January. They're pretty much sold out, but if one solitary person wants to come along, there are some very
Single
rare
seats.
single seat tickets available. If that sounds like you, I would love to have you in, sitting in the middle of a couple ruining their life.
That's all you can ever ask for.
Yeah, Brisbane Powerhouse, Jan 28th, 29th. Do come if you enjoy going to the theatre alone.
There we go. That's a selling point. And of course, we do need to mention the Great Australian Bake Off back on Foxtel, 27th of January.
Woohoo!
Yay! It hasn't. No, it feels. I was going to say it feels like it's been a couple of years, and we're really
Because
disappointed.
it has been.
It has been. So,
But our joyful spot is coming back in the world. There is light. 2022 is not all darkness. There is sweetness and light.
there is sweetness, there is light, there is joy, there is Mel's TikTok. Please check out Mel's TikTok, by the way, because I have been dying of laughter from all the mum bits.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Have a
Thank
banana.
you.
Have a banana.
Well, a sneak peek for listeners of the Washing Up podcast. I have, whilst we were filming Bake Off, I made some behind the scenes TikToks just about Bake Off, not in character's mum. Just so they'll be being released throughout my TikTok, which is Mel Buddle, as we go to air with some behind the scenes sort of stuff, like where we film. What else did I make? And then look, you would have to really enjoy Bake Off to want to watch these TikToks. Let's put it that way. Yeah.
Oh, look, I feel you. I'm on my TikTok. I created on the game Animal Crossing. I created the Bake Off shed in Animal Crossing, and we're starting to recreate scenes. So speaking of niche, that's niche.
Very niche. Yeah. So I'll be releasing those, I guess, from Jan 27th onwards, and they go for about 15 seconds each. So enjoy.
They are very good.
Now,
I just remembered, it's all too late now. I just remembered my favourite moment of the last season, and it's when the hot chips were delivered. Anyway, the end. I forgot about that.
Because let's face it, go out on hot chips. Thank you very much, Claire and Mel, for your time. It's been absolutely fantastic to have you on finally.
My pleasure.
Until next time, I'm still Chris.
And I'm still Christy.
And we will catch you all later.